Hello Andre, this is my fourth video I believe. Moving on to the visualizer, and might have to do terrain next video because there's a lot to cover in terrain. Um, so starting with the base class, I guess. In the visualizer we have a show for a bunch of different well, we have show for B-sphere, ABB, OBB. We also have show for point and show for ray. We also have a show collision volume, which should just take in a base collidable class, get the collision volume for that, and then call show on the show and call render appropriately. I believe. We also have recycle the commands, recycle our visualize commands, and I believe that's all of the static functions. Again, using a list of commands is what I stuck with for a majority of the command lists. I believe all of them actually. Then we have the private render functions, as well as the private show, and then the two wireframe, the two graphic wireframe objects, one for the B-sphere and the other two are both for OBB and ABB. And then we have a getter to get the broker. I don't know if I used that though. So I guess we'll just go into it. So in the constructor, we just instantiate the wireframe graphics object, as well as create a new visual broker to process and handle all of our commands. And then we have our recycle command function, which just takes whichever command is passed to it and pushes it back onto the list. Another reason for using a list is it doesn't really matter which. Another good reason for using a list for commands is it doesn't really matter where they go as when they go back, because you're going to be reusing them anyway. They should be cleared when they go back. So it doesn't matter if they're first in, last out, or you just need them back in the list to be reused again. So for all of the show functions, they follow a similar pattern. I get a temporary for the size and a temporary for the position, which I set to the sphere's get center, and then I create a world B-sphere, a world matrix for the B-sphere using those two values, and then I pass that world into the new visualize command, which is created here. If the command list is empty, if it's not empty, then I will reuse one of the already existing commands, passing in these same values and popping it off of the front. And then I use the scene attorney to submit those commands to the current scene. So I pass in the current scene and the visual command that I'm wanting to use, and then it's almost exactly the same for both ABB and OBB. The only difference in OBB is just the data that we have to get to create the world. I guess it's the same for ABB as it is for OBB, but in this show ABB, I can take in a min and max and a constant vector, which I believe is a color. Okay, I thought it was color, but I was confused as to why it was represented as a collidable, but I should have known once it said vec that it was a pass in a color. So you're going to pass in a color to create the ABB with that color, whatever color you want. Would it be white, red, green? Same thing. I actually probably also did it in bsphere, yeah, so I just ignored it the first time for whatever reason. So yeah, it's the same thing, but I'm able to create ABB using min and max vector values. And all of these recycle. Um, the show point is just able to show any point given a vector, um, a float for the scale modifier, and a color. Yes, this is just the private version. And you multiply scale by a vector of 1 just to set the vector. I do another function to show rays, which was very helpful for barycentric, and just getting that to even sort of work. I don't think I got it completely working. I'm still having some troubles with winding as it is bumpy, but I was able to smooth it out much more than it was before, and past that I had to get other stuff done, so I decided to move on. We'll get to that in a second. Um, so in my show ray, I'm calling the private show point to get a base point, which takes in the origin position or origin vector, a direction vector, the color, the length of the ray. You can set this yourself to whatever you want, and the scale. Um, I believe this is just the oh, because you have to pass in a scale to get the point. So yeah, that just creates the how big you want the point indicator to be above the point. I apologize, and then we set the transmatrix to be in between the origin and its direction, and then we set the rotation to face the direction of the matrix we just set. And I always wanted it to point up, just to show where the point. For the most part, when I was doing barycentric, I almost always wanted the direction to be up, um, to see which way the normals were pointing. And then I create a world ABB matrix using the scale, the rotation, and the matrix I set up, the transform matrix I set up earlier. And then I recycle the command if possible, otherwise create a new one, and submit the visual command to the current scene to be later processed by the broker in the draw, I believe. And then this render takes in a matrix, a color, and the collision volume type, and calls it on whichever collision volume is preferred. And these are just the private render methods. And we deleting the pointer instance and the pointer instance no pointer, and in the destructor we delete both wireframe instances as well as the visual broker, and go through the commands in the list and delete all of them. Is that everything? Oh, the support class for colors. I don't have that many, but I didn't seem to need them. I mostly used red, green, and blue and white. I don't think I ever used black or light gray. Yeah, just very simple colors. For the visualizer broker, that's I think still the same as last time, just keeping another list of commands and inserting them when I add, and processing them in the scene's draw. So inside the scene, we get the broker, process the visual commands, And this is a check to make sure that we're only drawing the terrain if the terrain is there, but I will get into that when we get into terrain in the next video. I will be showing off all the visualizer stuff. I know I haven't been showing any code, but it's already 7 o'clock, and I'm just trying to get through all the code before getting to the demo, where I'll attempt to show everything. So thank you, and I'll be getting terrain in the next video.